I'd like to welcome also in the chamber with us today Councillor Gary Marsh, the new leader of the Conservative Group, Councillor Matthew Cornish, the new leader of the Green Group, and also Councillors Bates and Eves, who are observing our proceedings. We'll start with agenda item number 1, to receive declarations of interests from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. I can see none. And then moving on to item 2, to receive apologies for absence. We are all here. And then item 3, to be agreed by general affirmation, the minutes and the exempt minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of May 2024. If we can just say agreed. Agreed. Thank you. Then item 4, to consider any items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. So we can now move on to agenda item 5. And before we go to Louise Duffield to address this item, I just wonder whether Councillor Marsh or Cornish have any comments they wish to make.
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, no, but I do like to offer my own personal congratulations to Councillor Bennett and of my group for your success in the general election. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. No, I don't have any further comments at this stage, and obviously also offer my congratulations on behalf of our group too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's very kind and considerate of you. So now go over to Louise Duffield to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chairman. I actually don't have a huge amount to add to the report, which I hope is self-explanatory. We've tested this way of working and it's worked well for our ambitious programme in a council of our size, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Louise. Does any member have any comments they wish to make? Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very familiar with this type of framework contract, but I've got a few questions about just really, how it fits within the organisation and so on. I mean, clearly we've got a lot of work going on at the moment, and I just wonder the type of contracts that we would expect to see this resource deployed on, and the funding of it. Members of the Cabinet will know how keen I am to see some work done on the Crawley Down Village Centre, which work on village centres is actually an objective within the sustainable strategy that we have, sustainable economy strategy. And I just wondered whether or not this framework would provide a suitable resource to be looking at taking that sort of activity forward. And if so, whether or not the funding of it would be suitable for S106 funding coming out of obviously expecting where we're seeing development and that there will be money available. I mean, just the whole sort of Pagaboo, I think is it pronounced? If you could just say a little bit about the structure of that framework and the way in which, where I've used this previously, then it used to be that you could see costs for individuals and their skills. And I just wondered whether that is the principle of this framework, which I haven't come across before, or whether or not it's a slightly different one. And I notice also that Pagaboo is a commercial company, and I just wonder how that ties in with this as well. Thank you.
Yeah, we to answer?
Yes.
Yeah. Firstly, Councillor Gibson, there's quite a lot there, so I've tried to take notes, but do catch me up if I've missed anything. So in terms of this framework, it enables us to call off for pre-agreed projects for which there is already a budget. So any scheme or project will have an element within its costings for project management, and that element would be applied to this. So it is only for things that are pre-agreed. In terms of examples of where this has worked, Centre for Outdoor Sports actually had the original procurement with Atkins Railus, and that's worked really well, and that was kind of our test case. I think we've also talked in the report about Clare Hall, and that has enabled us to take relatively small amounts of resource and only use them as needed. And I think it's that agility and flexibility that really works for us, because quite often you only need small amounts of work at different periods of time. It's a call-off framework, which essentially means that the terms and conditions and all of that legal work has been negotiated in advance, and that's what makes it quite efficient for us. In terms of how Atkins Realis work within that framework, when we provide a spec to them, they will offer us resource, so individuals, with the skills that we set out, and then offer us day rates, and that's how it's negotiated. So although there's a ceiling amount in the report, each individual project will have its projected number of days and its projected budget. I hope that that covers everything. I can't comment on things outside the scope of this report in terms of sort of anticipated other work, because this really is just about procuring project support.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you. If I just come back on one point there, I'll be disappointed, but I will continue to press on village centres. The S106 funding element, I just wondered whether or not whether this qualified for S106 funding as an activity within the provision of a new capital asset, shall we say. That's my vision, certainly, of the Centre for Outdoor Sports.
So project management is a legitimate project cost for any project. So a project will be funded from a variety of sources. As you know, often capital projects are funded from Section 106. And so in that case, that would tie together. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Any other members? I mean, I think the important thing here is that the word that Louise Duffield used, which is agility. It means that we can bring in resource to help support our existing operations as and when required. So that not only makes us agile, but it's also a financially astute way of managing what are often very complicated projects. If there are no more comments, I think we can move to the recommendations in paragraph 5, and I'd ask members to vote on their buttons. And that is carried. We now move to agenda item number 6, the Martlet Shopping Centre, which I'm know is going to generate more comment, I imagine. So if I could go to Councillor Marsh and then Councillor Cornish, if you want to make any comments on the report.
Thank you, Leader. I probably would like to restrict any comment to the part 2, I think, because I think it'd be more appropriate then.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cornish.
Thank you. You may want to take this point later, I'm not sure, but I think my query is really about potential of relocation of existing premises that are being used at the moment. So I don't know whether we can discuss that now or later.
So I'd say that would be an item for exempt. It may not be a matter at this stage, given the contents of the paper, that's really on point on what we're discussing today. But you can certainly raise it in exempt.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I now go to Catherine Hall to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chairman. In fact, I hope I don't need to say too much by way of introduction, actually. I hope the papers speak for themselves. But what I did want to do while I have the floor was to publicly thank my closest colleagues for the work that they've done to get us to this point. You'll appreciate reading the papers that this is a complicated, difficult set of issues, and I've really been grateful for the way that they've worked with me on these matters since the start of the year. So I wanted to thank them publicly for the way that they've worked. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Catherine, and I echo that. I think it would be fair to say that Catherine Hall talked about the work on this, because this is in addition to their existing workloads taking place in the margins of the day. And if I say that the margins of the day for them on this project are really incredibly wide, and they have worked tirelessly on behalf of the District Council to try and shape something here. And I welcome the opportunity to give this issue some oxygen after months of silence. And the reason for the silence is simple, which is we've been involved in highly complex commercial, technical, financial and legal work on what you see is a proposed joint venture proposal with New River. We will obviously go into exempt session to look at the confidential aspects of this in more detail. But if I could just spend a little bit of time, because I think it's fair, not just for us in the chamber, but also to people who will be watching on the live stream, for us to discuss what we can in open session on some of the aspects. I'd just firstly like to say that, I acknowledge how frustrated residents are with the failure to bring forward redevelopment of the Martlet Shopping Centre. As a resident of Burgess Hill myself for many years, I share and understand everyone's concern and indeed pain at this situation. Everyone in this room gets it and has got it for a long, long time. And, we have been trying to do all we can, both as the previous administration and this administration, to try and unlock what is a very complicated redevelopment. And I'd love to promise that there is a quick and easy answer for our travails. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it for people in this room today or people watching. The fact that we have made progress is good, is excellent, but there is a lot of difficult work still to do. And until everything is agreed, nothing is agreed. And just to be clear and to give everyone reassurance, this whole process starts with the council and it ends with the council. We will proceed, if we can, and hopefully we do, we will proceed on the basis of the will of council, not will of the cabinet. And it's important to stress that point. The report sets out in graphic detail the background to the situation. I don't think we need to rehearse it, and identifies that for the Burgess Hill growth area, whilst lots of investment is going into the Burgess Hill growth area, that beating heart of it is the Martlet Shopping Centre, which is one small part of a wider retail community. But we all know that it has been stuck and undeliverable by the market for many years. And the previous administration approached the Levelling Up Fund, which was a way of getting public sector involvement into it, a highly competitive fund and incredibly oversubscribed, and we were not successful. And we're here today with the hard work that our office has done, with the possibility of a joint venture where we merge our interests, which is the freehold, with the interests of New River, which is the leasehold. And we try, and we cannot today guarantee that we will be successful. We will try to bring that redevelopment forward and as quickly as we can, if agreement can be reached. They're my opening remarks. I don't know whether other cabinet members have any other comments to make. Councillor Alison Bennett MP.
Thank you, Leader. I'll just echo what you've already said about the hard work that our officers have put in for weeks and months, and actually in the preceding years under the previous administration, to try and get this redevelopment underway. It's not for want of anybody's lack of effort that it has been delayed and there have been problems along the way. And I always say to residents, you know, that if there was an easy solution, it would have been found years ago. What we've got before us today is something that we will be asking council to look at, but it will very much be this whole council's decision about whether to go ahead with this proposed joint venture. And I think that's right and proper that we approach it in that way. You know, this is not an easy decision, but I feel that we're very lucky that we've got something and progress that we can continue to work on and bring forward in the months ahead. So I feel that this is sitting in the right place at the moment. Thank you once again to the officers, and you know, I will very much welcome the debate when this comes to council in due course. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Gibson.
Yes, thank you. Although I'm up in the north of the district, it's about 8 years since I engaged with the ex-clerk of Burgess Hill Town Council in order to understand the relationship between the town centre and the development, which was drawn up in the 90s and before. And that was in the context of the expectation that Crabbett Park would be brought forward, and we were trying to understand rather better the impact that might have on the villages of Copthorne and Crawley Down. I think it's a failure of the planning system that the investment in the Northern Arc has not been able to solve the problem of the town centre. It's clearly a case of commercial failure in that respect, and I was always, as a civil servant, told that the right of government to intervene was indeed in conditions of commercial failure. I think it's pleasing that this council has taken a very big step of looking at how to find, and in this case, a very innovative solution to the way in which this problem might be addressed. And if you like, the asset, the town centre there, be brought back very much into use, having been round it and having seen, obviously, sort of the Martlet Hall since developed, and the costs that this council have incurred in that. I think it's appropriate that we should be involved in that, and I look forward to the further discussions that we have in terms of all the other issues that must be taken into account. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you. I think the report that has been brought to us so far is excellent and tells over 43 bullet points the sorry tale and the journey that gets us to this point today. And I think we all hope that, subject to all of the issues that still yet need to be landed, and not least the commercial ones, that we get to a point where we do have a revitalised Burgess Hill Town Centre here. I think what I would say, and perhaps this is for members of the public to be aware of, that of course Mid Sussex District Council is a landowner, is a landlord to a number of retail businesses, not least in the Orchard Shopping Centre. And you know, it's going to be very important that we move forward only on a sensible commercial basis, that if this doesn't stack up in a way that is acceptable to full council, that it doesn't proceed, that this isn't going to be just about a town centre, a revitalisation at any cost. This is about commercial opportunity that is commercially right, that isn't about councils, you know, funding shopping centres that don't work. This, you know, this has to be proceeded only on the basis of it working commercially.
Thank you. And Councillor Anne-Marie Cook.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to commend the officers for producing such a comprehensive report, particularly for those of us more new to the situation. It's helpful to have the historical background, which leads us now to the current promising situation. Though clearly, as already been mentioned, there is a way to go yet to secure the right deal and a good outcome for the town and the district. So legal work to be done and a lot of care to reduce and minimise any risk to the council and to gain the full support of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Cook. Yes, so I'm going to move that we move into the exempt session so that we can consider some of the other aspects in a bit more depth. But, you know, I think just to summarise, you know, this is a marathon, not a sprint. This is a journey, not an event, and we've got lots of work still to do, but we have made progress, but we're by no means at the end point. So moving on to item 7, to consider whether to exclude the press and public from the meeting during consideration of the following items in accordance with section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972 on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the said act. If I could have members voting on their buttons. And that is carried, so we'll move and pause the meeting while we move into the exempt item.